Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Elizabeth Merenberg. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you are new here. Today, we're talking about how surrendering is freedom. So, surrendering a relationship, a situation, a thought process, a habit, something that isn't serving us, surrendering that can actually lead to freedom because it opens up our energy and takes our energy off of this thing. And again, creates space for some peace and calm and freedom to come in. Now, why that can seem counterintuitive or why we might be a little repelled by that thought or like, there's no way that's true. Okay. Surrendering, a lot of times the ego can convince us means that we give up. It means we don't care what happens. It means we're like, oh, I don't care about my goal or my desire anymore. Right. A lot of us can buy into the belief that surrendering is like this passive thing, this state of just like, well, I don't care about anything and I don't care about this anymore. I'm just going to surrender and then it's gone. Okay. But surrendering does not mean giving up. It doesn't mean you don't care what happens. It doesn't mean you don't have a specific goal or desire you want to happen in your life. It is not passive at all. Surrendering actually is discernment. Okay. So surrendering means that we identify what's out of our control and we decide we're no longer going to try to control that or force it or try and like wrestle with it or make it be a certain way that it's not. Right. Surrendering is giving something to God or your higher power or the angels or the universe or again, however you identify with that realm, with the support from other side. Okay, but so surrendering is discernment. And so this is where a lot of times when we need to surrender something, it's something that we feel like we should just be able to force to make happen, or well, it should be going this way by now, or I put all this time and energy and effort into this and it's still not happening, or it's still not going the way I want, right? Surrendering is when we think something outside of us that we can't control should be going a certain way. And then when it's not, we get frustrated. So like sometimes, we feel like things, um, we're putting all this time and energy into it. And it's like, okay, well, if I do this, then this is going to be like that. And that might not even be conscious, right? So forgive yourself. Might not even realize we're doing that, right? We just have this like subconscious, unconscious belief of like, well, if I do this, then this is going to be like this. Or if I'm this, then this is going to happen like this, right? But when things aren't going our way or things aren't happening in a way that feels like super affirming to us or like, fair, we could even say, or I've put all this time and effort. So where's this other thing, right? So when that happens, that's when we try to force something, or if we think something should be a way that's different than it actually is, right? So we try to force it, we try to hold on tighter, we try to close our grip on it, we try to control things we can't control, we try to wrestle with it, we try to say, okay, well, this thing now needs to be like this, or it should actually be like this, or it should be this other way instead, right? And the more we go down that pathway of thinking and the more we kind of like hook into these things that we can't control, it feels worse and worse the more we do that, right? If it's something we can't control and something outside of us, the more we are like, okay, well, it needs to be like this. It has to happen like this. I did this, this, and this. So therefore this and this should be happening. Okay. That's when it can feel worse and worse and worse. And so surrendering means letting go of what we can't control while also staying committed to what we personally can control. So again, surrendering isn't passive. It's discernment. It's separating out, okay, this is a situation where, let's say you have a specific goal you're working towards, and you, again, unconsciously or maybe consciously, no judgment, okay, you thought, well, if I do this, this, and this, then this, and this thing is going to happen. And these other things we don't have control over. And so we can get frustrated because we had subconsciously linked, okay, well, I did this, so why isn't this other thing happening? And when we get frustrated, that's when we need to take a step back and be like, okay, what am I trying to control that I can't actually control? I can control my part in it and my thoughts in it and what I'm contributing to it, right? But we can't control the outcome. We can't control someone else. We can't control these things outside of us. So surrendering, when we let go of what we can't control through surrendering, but we're still committed to doing our part and staying committed to what we personally can control, that's where the freedom comes in. That's where we open up our energy. That's what feels like relief. That's what feels like freedom, even if it doesn't feel like it right away. Okay. But that's what can happen because we opened up our energy to taking our energy back from, like, again, wrestling with these things we can't actually control, and instead using it in a way that's healthy, that actually can be an energetic exchange, right? This is something that actually can be changed by our energy instead of like forcing it, and not into something that we can't control. So again, just thinking about, okay, so like, so what's the difference here? Okay, so I'll give you a hint. If you're trying to control someone else, okay, anything about them, how they act, what they say, what they do, whatever, if you're trying to control someone else, their process, what they're going through, what they're learning, anything about controlling someone else, controlling or changing someone else, if you're trying to control the outcome of a situation. So for example, if I do this amount of exercise, then I will get this specific result. Or if I put this much hours into my business, then I'll make this much money, whatever, right? So the outcome of a situation, or if I say this thing to this person, then this is going to be the result of that. So any type of outcome of a situation, the timing of a situation, right? Okay, I only need to work on this for 6 months. I only need to do this thing for 6 months, and then my result will come. Or if I put this much amount of time into this thing, then my result will come. Okay, so the timing of a situation, or, by this certain age, I'm going to have hit this, and this goal. If you're trying to control the exact unfolding. So, I want to be married, and I'm going to meet my partner in this way, in this timeline, and this is how it's going to happen. And we're going to get married here, and it's going to be like this. Okay. Or I have this particular business goal, and I know this is what's going to happen. This is who my clients are going to be. This is what's going on, right? Those are all things you can have goals like that, and you can open your energy up, and you can imagine and daydream and think of possibilities. That's all really good and helpful. But when you get super attached to those, and when you decide it has to be this exact way, this exact thing, because we can't control any of that, right? We can only control ourselves. And so those are all things to surrender. And so it can be something larger sometimes, something you have to surrender, or it could be something smaller, it could be something in between, right? But surrendering leads to serenity, Freudian slip. Okay, surrendering leads to serenity because we can let go of that. And thinking about the serenity prayer, it's one of my favorite prayers I talk about all the time, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Whenever I'm feeling stuck with this, with surrendering something, I always think about that prayer and then think out, okay, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So what can't I change in this situation? So probably one of those things I listed. Of course, if there's something else, trust that for yourself, right? But so the timing, the unfolding, someone else, their response, their reaction, their this, their that, right? So that's what I can't change. What can I control? What can I change? I can change my actions. I can put the amount of energy I'm putting into something, my commitment to something, my thoughts about something. So those are all things you can control. And then the wisdom to know the difference, of course, is just separating those out. And there can be some overlap in those things, but in general, that list helps us kind of, especially if journaling is helpful for you, it helps us separate out, okay, this is something I've been trying to force. This is something I can let go a little bit of. Okay, but all of these things working together, can help us reframe, if something feels like really, really frustrating and like, why isn't this just happening? Why isn't this coming together? Why isn't it whatever, right? You can do a little check-in with yourself with that and just be like, oh, okay, here's maybe where my energy got crisscrossed a little bit. Which like is no judgment, it's just we get caught up in these things. That's part of being on earth. There's always lessons here. There's always things to check and, keep in place with all of that. So once you've identified what you need to surrender, and again, surrendering is not passive. It's just taking your energy off of something you thought you could control and putting it back on things you actually can control and things that actually are in your power. Okay, how do you surrender? So it's usually not a one-time thing, right? Just like, okay, God, I surrender this, the end, right? If it was that easy, life would be a lot easier for all of us. Okay, it's just usually we have to surrender something over and over again. And then depending how deep our wounding is, depending how much attachment we have to a certain thing, depending how much emotional energy we've already invested into something, and again, consciously or unconsciously, right? We may not even realize we had this certain attachment so strongly until it doesn't happen at the pace or the way or the whatever way we wanted it to. Okay. So we usually have to surrender over and over again. My first advice, like always, like everything, is doing some type of prayer, some type of spiritual practice that works for you. So you can ask for help. You know, you can say, God, take this from me. I'm trying to control it. I know I can't control it. You can say this serenity prayer if that's helpful for you. Or you can just, you know, talk from your heart and just say, I'm trying to control this thing. It's out of my control. Please help me pull my energy back from it. Please help me focus on what I can control. Please, like, you know, let me stop hyper focusing on that and put it back on me. You can pray to your angels, you can pray to spirit guides, you can pray to your ancestors. I mean, whoever, whatever you work with on the other side there for yourself. You can just say it to the earth, to the universe, you know, again, whatever works for you. But just remember, like, you know, and part of why we don't want to surrender is because we think we won't be taken care of. Okay. And so you can say, like, I'm scared that whatever, like, I'm scared I won't be taken care of. I'm scared that I won't reach my goal. I'm scared that I won't feel fulfilled if this, and this happens to me, you know? So just, you know, again, your prayer can be something along the lines of, I can see I'm trying to control this. Please help me let it go. Please help me surrender it. Please help me remember I'm taken care of. Please help me remember that I don't need to control things that are outside of me. Please help me I'm safe. I don't need to do this, right? And if you're not sure about you know, where the exact reason why you want to hook into all these things is going on, is if you want to do some journaling, right? You can ask yourself, free write, like, why am I trying to control this? You know, why am I afraid to surrender this to God, to my higher power, to, you know, whatever? What part of my safety do I believe is tied to this if I don't control it, right? Like, so do you have abandonment? Are you afraid you won't be taken care of? Are you afraid you won't find this certain thing that you've been looking for? You won't hit this certain goal. Okay. So, like, what part of my safety or my livelihood is tied to this? Where can I put my energy instead? Right. So maybe I'm so focused on the results of this particular thing, when it's like, well, I need to focus my energy on, am I showing up? Am I taking action? Am I doing my part? Then, you know, please, God, help me be content with that and trust that, you know, God is like weaving God's hands and everything else and taking care of that for you in that way. So again, surrendering is not just like a one-time thing. I did it, I'm done, I never have to think about it again. Okay. Surrendering is a lifelong process. It doesn't mean a particular thing will be a lifelong process. You have to surrender. I mean, maybe it is. Um, and that's no judgment. You know, I'm very open about, I'm an addict, so I have to surrender my addiction to drugs and alcohol all the time, over and over again, in order for me to stay sober. So sometimes there is a lifelong process with these things, but it's a lifelong process in terms of the ego will always want to attach. The ego will always want to say, okay, I need this thing in this way, or, you know, we get really excited. And so we can shift away from ourselves and put our energy on these other things here. So it's more about, like everything else, developing tools that you'll need to work through this process and to change things for you. And once you develop those tools, you can use them, and you might notice, you know, okay, well, I tend to control something outside of me when I don't feel safe, when, you know, when I'm really close to reaching my goal, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to come together, when I'm, you know, in this particular level of intimacy with someone. Okay. Like, again, this is your work to discover within yourself, but just remembering that there's nothing wrong with you if, you know, you need to surrender something, a particular thing, over and over and over again, or if there's things that shift and change in your life and you need to practice surrendering over and over and over again. It's part of the human experience. But learning and practicing surrender, and, you know, severing our attachments, and really focusing, putting our energy back on ourselves, and remembering what we can control, what we can't control, you know, is, it's a lifelong process, and it's part of getting to know ourselves, and it's part of developing emotional maturity and emotional depth within ourselves. So just remember, surrendering is freedom. It is not passive. Okay. You are not giving up. You are not whatever other ego stories going on, you know, even listening to that. But surrendering is freedom. Let God, let your higher power, let the angels, let the universe, let, you know, again, whatever works for you with that language, support you from the other side to help you. And just remember that, you know, it's freedom because it gives us relief, because we take our energy back from these things that we've tried to control and manipulate, and instead have decided to place it back on ourselves. So surrendering is freedom, even if it feels really uncomfortable and really hard, especially if this is a deep pattern you've had to work on unlearning after, you know, many, many years of doing the opposite, which is me. Okay. I've been there. I get it. So surrendering is freedom. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all of that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.